All right, let's do this. Get ready for a deep dive into two Southeast Asian hotspots, Singapore and Malaysia.
Always a good matchup.
Right. You're thinking about making a move. I know you're thinking about making a move.
It seems like it, yeah.
Maybe retirement, investments, a career change. And you've sent over a really fascinating mix of articles and research. Let's see, comparing costs, lifestyles, opportunities. There's even a slightly alarming question about Malaysia taking over Singapore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we'll get to that one,
And
don't
for
worry.
real, yeah.
No need to build a bunker just yet. But before we get into all that, let's just sort of map out the territory.
It's smart to compare these two. Really is. I mean, they're both dynamic, but in very different ways.
Yeah,
By the end of this deep dive, you'll have a much clearer picture of which one fits your goals.
exactly. So let's kick things off with, well, the dream. Retirement,
Yes.
right? Everyone wants those golden years to be, well, golden. And the articles you sent really paint two pretty distinct pictures.
Yeah, they do.
Singapore's all about that high life, right?
Certainly.
Top-notch healthcare, super safe streets.
Mm-hmm.
But your retirement savings might disappear faster than a plate of chili crab at a hawker center.
That's true, especially with the housing costs.
Yeah, it's almost twice the cost of living compared to Malaysia, right?
Yeah, Singapore comes at a premium. It does.
Yeah.
But you get that world-class infrastructure. And the stability, that's a big plus.
Right, right. Now, what's interesting is that Malaysia offers a completely different pace.
Yeah, much more relaxed.
Right.
Your money definitely goes further.
Oh, yeah.
You've got beaches, cities, rainforests to choose from. And then there's the Malaysia My Second Home program, MM2H.
MM2H. Okay, got to remember that.
Yeah,
It sounds pretty tempting.
very tempting.
Yeah. But, I think I would worry a little bit about healthcare outside of the big cities in Malaysia. Is that a valid concern?
Yeah, it's something to definitely consider. While Malaysia's healthcare system has made significant strides, I mean, it's not as uniformly excellent as Singapore's. So in rural areas, you might not have that same level of specialized care.
Got it. So for retirees, it's really like weighing up peace of mind in Singapore
Yeah,
versus stretching your budget and having more lifestyle choices in Malaysia.
exactly. It all boils down to your priorities, What kind of retirement experience are you actually dreaming of?
Right.
Tranquil beach sunsets or that vibrant city buzz, the hawker centers.
Okay, let's get down to business now, investments.
Okay.
Right. You sent some articles comparing Singapore and Malaysia as investment destinations.
Mm-hmm.
Singapore seems to be attracting, well, the big players, right?
Right, yeah.
All about high tech, finance. But isn't it a super competitive market?
It is. Singapore's a real heavyweight in the global financial arena. I mean, they've positioned themselves as a hub for fintech, biomedical research, even sustainable development's huge over there.
Wow.
The government actively supports innovation, and investor protections are strong.
Okay.
But yeah, the costs are high, and the competition is fierce.
So it's like the Wall Street of Southeast Asia, but with a tech twist.
It's a good way to put it.
High rewards, high stakes.
Hmm.
Now, Malaysia seems to be a different game altogether, right?
Right, yeah.
More about manufacturing natural resources.
If you're interested in electronics, food processing, or commodities like palm oil and rubber, Malaysia's a major player.
Okay.
They also have a booming tourism industry and a growing Islamic finance sector. Costs are lower, but, the political and legal landscape can be complex.
So Singapore is like investing in a blue chip stock.
Right, yeah.
Stable, reliable, but expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Malaysia is more of an emerging markets play.
Yeah.
Potentially higher growth, but with more unknowns.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
What kind of investor are you? Risk taker, play it safe type?
Yeah.
That'll determine where you see more opportunity.
Now, before we get too deep into comparing the present, I think we need a little history lesson, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Because Singapore and Malaysia weren't always two separate countries.
No.
And from the research you sent, it seems like that shared past still kind of affects their relationship today.
Absolutely. To understand their present, we need to rewind a bit.
Yeah.
The big takeaway is that, well, they went through a messy divorce, you could say.
Okay.
They were briefly merged as the Malaysian Federation, but they separated in 1965.
Yeah.
Due to, well, clashing visions, really.
So it's a pretty intense breakup.
It was.
Can you give us the highlights of what went wrong?
There were huge disagreements over racial policies.
Okay.
Singapore favored a Malaysia idea, emphasizing equality for all ethnicities. The Malaysian Federation, however, leaned toward preferential treatment for Malays. That was a major sticking point.
Okay.
Plus, there were economic tensions. Singapore's rapid economic growth seemed to overshadow the rest of the Federation.
So basically, they had different ideas about who should benefit and how the country should be run.
Yeah, exactly.
And that tension eventually led to the split.
It did. It's like a family business gone wrong, different values, and they just couldn't see eye to eye on the future.
Right, right. And it sounds like those fundamental differences are still kind of felt today in their policies and their interactions.
Very much so.
Okay, so now let's talk about that elephant in the room.
Oh, boy.
That question about Malaysia taking over Singapore.
Right.
I have to admit, that is a little unsettling.
It's certainly attention-grabbing,
It is.
but we have to look at this through a clear lens.
Okay.
Remember, their separation was driven by internal conflicts, not external aggression. Plus, international law frowns upon countries just, taking over each other.
Yeah, that wouldn't exactly go over well with the global community.
No, it wouldn't.
Plus, just think about the economic fallout.
Oh, it'd be terrible.
Malaysia and Singapore, they're major trading partners.
Right.
A conflict like that would hurt both of them.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, there's zero indication that Malaysia even wants to do this, right? So it seems like this question is more about lingering historical anxieties and perceptions of power dynamics in the region.
You could say that.
So while it's a thought-provoking question, the reality is a takeover scenario is, well, highly improbable.
Exactly. It's more about understanding how historical events and anxieties can sometimes shape public discourse.
Okay, so we've laid some groundwork. We've looked at retirement, investments, and even a bit of the historical baggage between these two countries.
That's right.
But this is just the beginning.
Stay tuned, because we're about to dive even deeper.
Welcome back to our deep dive. We've already unpacked so much about Singapore and Malaysia, retirement dreams, investment strategies, even that takeover question. Now I'm ready to go full-on history nerd.
It's about time.
Right. The articles you sent about their past are just fascinating.
Yeah, history really is the key to understanding these two nations.
It's amazing how events from, like, centuries ago still kind of ripple through their present.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. Like that whole messy divorce thing we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's rewind the clock way back. Where do we even begin?
Well, before colonial powers entered the scene, the Malay Peninsula and Borneo, which is now partly Malaysia,
Right.
they were already bustling trading hubs.
Wow.
We're talking ancient maritime routes connecting east and west. They were attracting traders and influences from India, China, all over.
Okay, so it was multicultural back then, too.
Oh, yeah, very much so. That's why Malaysia has such a vibrant mix of cultures today.
So it's like they were the crossroads of the ancient world, soaking up all those different cultural flavors.
Exactly. And from that melting pot emerged powerful kingdoms.
Yeah.
One that really stands out is the Malacca Sultanate, founded in the 15th century.
Okay.
Its strategic location on the Strait of Malacca made it a major player in trade.
Right.
And the spread of Islam.
So Malacca was like the New York City of its time.
Yeah, you could
A hub for commerce and culture. But then the Europeans arrived, right?
Yeah, that's when things get a bit more complicated.
Okay.
First came the Portuguese in 1511, conquering Malacca. This really kicked off the era of European colonialism in the region.
Okay.
And the Dutch took over in 1641, followed by the British in the late 18th century.
So it's like a game of colonial musical chairs.
It really was.
Yeah. And the British, they were the ones who really left their mark, right?
Their influence was massive. I mean, they brought their systems of administration, education, law, and they developed the infrastructure, mainly to exploit resources like tin and rubber, which came at a cost.
It's always like a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, they brought some advancements, but also exploitation and the suppression of local cultures.
Absolutely.
Then came World War II, right?
Yeah. Another huge turning point.
Yeah. So the Japanese occupation from 1941 to 1945.
Brutal. It was brutal.
But it also kind of exposed the weaknesses of colonial rule.
Yeah, it did.
And fueled the fire of independence movements.
Right. People started to realize, hey, we can govern ourselves.
So it's like the war unintentionally planted the seeds for the birth of modern Malaysia and Singapore.
You could say that.
Yeah. And after the war, the demand for independence was Was unstoppable?
Yeah, but the path was far from smooth. I
Right.
mean, Malaysia had to fight a bloody guerrilla war against communist insurgents in the Malayan Emergency. It lasted for over a decade.
So their independence was hard won.
Oh, very much so.
I mean, it makes you appreciate the struggles they went through to become the nations they are today.
Absolutely. Finally, in 1957,
Hmm.
the Federation of Malaya gained independence from Britain,
Huge victory.
a moment of great pride, but the story doesn't end there.
There's more.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Then came that whole merger and separation saga with Singapore.
Right, like a sequel to the independence story.
Exactly. In 1963,
Hmm.
the Federation of Malaya, Singapore, Sabah, and Sarawak, they all united to form Malaysia. The goal was to create a stronger, more balanced nation.
Oh.
But, as we discussed, it only lasted 2 years.
Yeah.
Those clashing visions over racial policies and economic development just proved too difficult to overcome.
It's a reminder that building a nation isn't easy.
No, it's not.
It takes more than just, drawing lines on a map.
Right.
It's about shared values and a common vision for the future.
Exactly. And for Malaysia, the years after Singapore's departure, they were turbulent.
Oh, okay.
Economic disparities and racial tensions kind of exploded in the tragic riots of May 13th, 1969.
Really?
Yeah, it was a dark chapter in their history.
It's heartbreaking to think about, the violence and the suffering.
Yeah, it's tough.
How did they move forward from that?
They implemented the new economic policy in 1971.
What's that?
Well, the goal was to reduce poverty and restructure society, giving preferential treatment to the Bumi Putera, which includes Malays and indigenous peoples. It aimed to address the economic imbalances that kind of fueled the unrest.
So it was like a massive attempt to level the playing field.
Yeah, you could say that.
Was it successful?
It's complex.
Okay.
It did lift many out of poverty, but it also created new inequalities and resentments.
Mhm.
It's still debated today.
It's like a policy with both positive and negative impacts, huh?
Yeah.
Not an easy situation to solve.
No, it's not.
Now, what about that guy, Mahathir Mohamad? He seems like a huge figure in Malaysia's story.
Mahathir Mohamad became prime minister in 1981, and he ruled for over 20 years.
20 years. Wow.
He oversaw rapid economic growth and modernization.
Wow.
He had this ambitious Vision 2020 plan.
What was that?
Well, aiming to make Malaysia a fully developed nation by that year.
Okay.
Ambitious plan.
So he was like the architect of modern Malaysia.
Yeah, pretty much. But they didn't quite hit that 2020 goal, did they?
No, doesn't seem like it.
But they made huge strides in terms of development.
Okay.
And Mahathir's impact is still felt today, even though, his legacy is definitely complicated and controversial.
Right.
A lot of debate around him.
It's fascinating how one leader can leave such a lasting imprint on a nation.
It really is.
So where does Malaysia stand now after all this history?
Today, Malaysia is a mix of old and new. They've got those iconic Petronas Twin Towers symbolizing their progress, but they're still grappling with issues like corruption and ethnic tensions.
Okay.
It's a nation constantly evolving,
Yeah.
searching for its place in the world.
Right. Okay, so that's Malaysia's story in a nutshell. Ancient trading post, colonial struggles, independence, a rocky merger, economic booms, and ongoing challenges.
That's a good summary.
Quite a journey.
Yeah.
Now, let's switch gears and talk about Singapore's path to becoming that tiny but mighty nation.
It's quite a story.
It is. It's amazing how they've managed to achieve so much in such a short time.
Singapore's story is truly remarkable. I mean, they faced immense challenges at independence in 1965, limited resources, high unemployment, not to mention security concerns.
Right.
It's a testament to their resilience and strategic thinking that they've become a global success story.
Right. They basically had to build a nation from scratch.
They did, yeah.
So what were the key ingredients in their success recipe?
Well, their first prime minister, Lee Kuan Yew, played a pivotal role. He was a brilliant strategist, a strong leader.
Okay.
He focused on attracting foreign investment, developing a highly skilled workforce, and building a world-class infrastructure.
So it's like they said, okay, we may be small, but we're going to be the best at what we do.
Exactly. They invested heavily in education, created a business-friendly environment, and embraced globalization. And it paid off. big time. They
Yeah.
became a hub for finance, trade, and innovation.
Now, Singapore's social policies also seem quite different from Malaysia's.
Yeah,
Right?
they are.
Less about affirmative action and more about meritocracy.
That's a key difference. Singapore emphasized meritocracy,
Okay.
rewarding talent and hard work regardless of ethnicity.
Mm,
It created a highly competitive society,
yeah.
which has been both a strength and a weakness.
It's like a system that pushes everyone to excel, but maybe at the cost of some social safety nets.
You could say that.
Yeah. Another thing that struck me about Singapore is their emphasis on law and order.
Right.
Everything seems so clean, so safe, and so efficient.
Singapore is famous for its strict laws and low crime rates.
Mm-hmm.
They prioritize security and social order,
Yeah.
which has contributed to their stability and economic success. But it's also led to criticism about limited personal freedoms.
It's like that classic debate, security versus freedom.
It is, yeah.
It's a tough balance to strike.
It really is.
But overall, Singapore's success seems, well, undeniable.
It is pretty incredible.
It's like they managed to defy all odds
Yeah.
and become this economic powerhouse.
It really is. Their strategic planning, strong leadership, and disciplined approach have made them a model for development.
So we've got these two contrasting success stories.
We do.
One built on diversity and resource wealth, the other on human capital and strategic planning.
Right.
It makes me wonder, what can we learn from comparing them?
That's a great question to lead us into the final part of our deep dive. Let's bring it all together and see what key insights emerge.
All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive.
The home stretch.
It is. We've journeyed through the history of Singapore and Malaysia, crunched the numbers on retirement and investment.
Oh, yeah.
We even explored some geopolitical what-ifs.
Always fun.
Right? Now it's time to connect all the dots and see what picture emerges, right?
And most importantly, I think, help you figure out which country aligns best with, your personal goals.
Right.
And that gut feeling you can't really ignore.
Yeah, exactly. So let's rewind a bit and highlight those key takeaways. Remember, when we started with retirement, Singapore was all about that urban luxury lifestyle, but with a price tag to match. Malaysia offered more of a laid-back vibe, diverse environments,
Yeah.
and that super affordable cost of living.
It's a stark contrast.
Yeah.
Singapore's perfect if you want that, top-tier healthcare, a bustling city at your doorstep, and that feeling of safety and stability. But if stretching that retirement budget and having a range of lifestyle options from beaches to rainforests is more appealing, then Malaysia might be calling your name.
It's like choosing between a five-star hotel in the city center versus a charming villa with a view. Right?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, both amazing. Just depends on your style.
Right.
And we talked about investments, and again, those contracting personalities came out.
Definitely. Singapore, that high-stakes, high-reward financial hub, perfect for folks interested in, fintech, cutting-edge research, sustainable development. It's like investing in a tech startup that's already a global player.
Risky, but potentially very lucrative.
Right, exactly.
Malaysia, on the other hand, was more about established industries, like manufacturing natural resources.
Right. And let's not forget about those lower costs, which make it attractive for investors looking for opportunities in emerging markets. But as we discussed, the political and legal landscape can be more complex to navigate.
So with investments, it all comes down to your risk appetite.
Yes.
Are you diving headfirst into the next big thing, or are you looking for steady long-term growth?
That's the question.
Yeah.
Now, stepping back from those practical considerations, our deep dive into history really revealed how those contrasting personalities were shaped over centuries.
Yeah.
We saw those ancient trade routes, the colonial struggles, the fight for independence, and then that defining moment in 1965, the separation.
Yeah, that messy divorce really set them on different paths. Singapore, prioritizing meritocracy and a multi-ethnic vision. Malaysia grappling with ethnic tensions and economic disparities while trying to forge its own identity.
It's fascinating how historical events continue to echo in their present day policies.
Yeah.
And even in how people perceive them.
Right. And we even tackled that eyebrow-raising question about Malaysia taking over Singapore.
Which we quickly debunked as highly unlikely.
Right.
It was more about understanding those lingering historical anxieties and perceptions of power dynamics.
But it was a good reminder that history matters.
It does.
It shapes how nations see themselves and each other.
Yeah. So we've covered a lot of ground.
Right. Yeah.
You've got the facts, you've got the
Yeah.
figures, you've got the historical context. But now comes the most important part.
The gut check.
Right.
Right. This is where you have to step in and weigh those less tangible factors.
Yeah, things like cultural fit, personal values, long-term aspirations.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just about where you can afford to live or where you can afford to invest. It's really about where you can see yourself thriving.
What kind of lifestyle truly resonates with you?
Yeah, do you value, efficiency and order above all else? Or are you more drawn to a more relaxed, culturally diverse environment? Think about the everyday experiences, the people, the pace of life. What just feels right at a deeper level?
These are the questions that no spreadsheet can answer.
No, they can't.
It's about listening to your intuition and envisioning yourself in each country.
Yeah.
What excites you? What makes you feel a sense of belonging?
Choosing between Singapore and Malaysia is it's kind of like choosing between two amazing adventures.
Please.
Both have incredible potential, just in different ways. The key is to find the adventure that aligns with your personal compass.
So there you have it, our deep dive into the captivating world of Singapore and Malaysia.
We made it.
We did. We explored the practicalities, the history, the contrasting personalities. Now it's your turn to explore those deeper questions.
Yeah.
And make a choice that feels right for you.
Good luck.
Happy